I think a lot of people feel pretty bleak about their relationship prospects these days. One of my favorite comedians recently joked that your relationship has a 1 in 8 chance of reaching marriage, and then that marriage has a 50% chance of ending in divorce, which means that there's really a 6.5% chance that the person you're with right now is going to be the one you live with happily ever after. But hold on, what if I told you that you could actually predict with about 94% accuracy whether or not you'll live happily ever after with the person you're with? And just to sweeten the deal even more, what if I told you that this prediction was based on one factor in your relationship? Wouldn't you want to know what that one factor was? Some people think it's money. It's not. Some say sexual chemistry. Nope. Some say it's humor. It isn't. Some say it's forgiveness, which is a good one, but is also not the most important one. So let's get into it. Dr. John Gottman was a professor of psychology at the University of Washington. He and his wife were actually both psychologists in New York City for a while too. He did a study on newlywed couples a while back where they participated by spending the weekend at a bed and breakfast in Washington state. And they agreed to be observed during their stay. Those observations led to a conclusion that actually gave Gottman the ability to predict whether or not a couple would be married or divorced or together but terribly unhappy, and that prediction had a 94% accuracy rate. And it had nothing to do with being rich or poor, it had nothing to do with sex or humor or forgiveness. It was about kindness. It was about having an orientation in your partner's direction without the expectation of reciprocation. Here's what Gottman discovered. Every day as people, we make bids for connection, sort of like casting a fishing line, hoping to catch love. Sometimes we do it knowingly, sometimes we even do it without realizing we're doing it. It's a bid for connection when Alana calls me on her way home from work. It's a bid for connection when I start talking about some mundane event in my life. And kindness is choosing to move in the direction of your partner and respond positively, generously to their bid for connection. Now, Gottman split his findings into 2 types of couples, masters and disasters. Masters were constantly scanning the environment, looking for ways to appreciate and respond generously to their partner's bids for connections. Disasters, on the other hand, made a habit of ignoring their partner's bids for connections, not listening to the mundane stories, shunning the opportunities to come look at something out the window, right down to ignoring their phone calls. If masters turn toward their partners, disasters have a habit of turning away from their partner's connection casts. If masters scan their environment for ways to appreciate, disasters scan their environment looking for opportunities to criticize or show contempt. And contempt is a cancer that rips couples apart, and constant criticism kills relationships. Kindness, choosing to move in another person's direction without the expectation of reciprocation, is like a glue that binds couples together. This is also why I think you should follow Jesus when it comes to your relationships. I mean, in a world filled with criticism and contempt, Jesus showed up and invited people to take their cue from him. He said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you." And when he says yoke, he's talking about a way of life. He's talking about a way of being. So Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you because my yoke is easy and my burden is light." But the word easy there is actually the word for kindness. My yoke is kindness. My way of life is kindness. It's about scanning the environment, choosing to move in the direction of others without the expectation of reciprocation. John, one of Jesus' closest disciples, shows us a real practical example of this. Just before Jesus was arrested, he and his 12 disciples were gathering in an upper room and they were about to eat a meal together. But before they did, Jesus scanned the environment and noticed that there was no host instructing servants to wash the feet of Jesus and his guests. So the evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his feet and that he had come from God and was returning to God. In other words, Jesus knew who he was. He knew the power he held. He had this divine self-consciousness. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. Now look, everyone in the room would have been absolutely stunned at this. I mean, this was such a demeaning task for someone of Jesus' stature to be doing, which is why another disciple, Peter, responds the way he does. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You don't realize what I'm doing, but later you will understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." We'll connect back to that in a second. "Then Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus answered, "Those who have had a bath need only wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you." For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I've done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I've set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, no messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you'll be blessed if you do them." Three things that I think are worth noticing here. First, the divine self-consciousness that leads to kindness. One of the most amazing things about Jesus is the fact that he believes that he's God. He knows he came from God. He knows he's returning to God. Jesus knows he's divine. And what does he choose to do with that knowledge? He puts on a towel and serves the people around him. He doesn't feel the need to overpower people with his divinity or lord it over them. He doesn't use his godness to motivate them. Nothing. He chose instead to scan his environment and to look for an opportunity to generously serve. His divine self-consciousness led to kindness. The second thing worth noticing is Jesus' invitation to participation. Peter refuses to let Jesus humiliate himself like this. No, you're not going to wash my feet, he says. Jesus says, "I'm your teacher and your master. If this level of kindness isn't beneath me, then it's definitely not beneath you either. So as I've done for you, so you need to go and do for others. And if you do it, you'll be blessed." There's this invitation to participation, which leads to the third thing to notice. Jesus says to his disciples just a few minutes after this in verse 34, "As I have loved you, so you should also love one another." And I don't want you to miss this here, because this is an incredibly countercultural way of thinking. None of us would have thought that it would be unreasonable for Jesus to have opted for divine reciprocation. As I have loved you, so also you should love me, right? As I have done for you, so also you should do for me. But instead, Jesus brings something completely different to the table. He doesn't ask for reciprocation. He asks for multiplication. As I have done for you, so also you should do for others. You see, the number one predictor of success in a relationship is kindness. It's the willingness to move in the direction of your partner without the expectation of reciprocation. But so often, that's not what our acts of kindness are, right? And that's a problem. We turn kindness into a currency to get things from other people in relationship. We turn kindness into scorekeeping, constantly wondering who owes who at this point in our relationship. And when you use anything as a currency, you move out of the world of relationship and into the world of transaction. I will if you will. But again, this is why I think you should follow Jesus, especially in your relationship. Jesus never turned his relationships into transactions. Jesus was willing to be kind, to move in your direction, to scan your environment, and then come and give his life for you without demanding something from you. That's why one New Testament author literally calls Jesus the kindness of God. And he's still inviting us to participate in that reality today. I mean, how much different would your past relationships have been if you or your partner had chosen this kindness? How might your current relationship get better, or maybe the next one be better if you start living this out? One of the more interesting things to come out of the study by Gottman is that people who view kindness as an inherent trait, in other words, something you either have or don't have, those people often have less successful relationships. But people who view it as a character muscle that you have to work out and exercise, they do so much better. Friends, kindness is a muscle that you have to exercise. The future of your relationship depends on it. I'm positive. Well, I'm 94% positive. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.